Hello students, today we are going to start chapter number 9, that is reproduction in animals. In this chapter you will be able to learn about reproduction, what are the various modes of reproduction, male and female reproductive organs, the process of reproduction, and various types of asexual reproduction. So now let's start with the introduction. What is reproduction? Reproduction is a process by which living organisms give birth to a new generation of organisms of the same kind. It is considered as an important process because without it, a species would not be able to survive over time. Each and every individual must reproduce to ensure continuity of similar kind of individuals, generation after generation. So that is why it is an important process. When we talk about modes of reproduction, there are two modes by which animals reproduce. These are sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction is the process of reproduction in which offspring is produced by the fusion of male and female gametes. Male gamete is the male sex cell, which is a sperm, and female gamete is a female sex cell, which is called ova or the egg. So the fusion of these two male and female gametes will be producing offspring. So that is why it is called sexual reproduction. In this type of reproduction, two parents are involved. When we talk about asexual reproduction, it is the process of reproduction in which offsprings are produced by a single parent, which means without the fusion of gametes. So there will be no sperm or egg for the fusion. So only single parent will be producing a offspring. So that is why it is called asexual reproduction. So now we will be studying about these modes of reproduction in detail. So first we will start with sexual reproduction. Under sexual reproduction, we have the first topic, that is male reproductive organs. The male reproductive organs include a pair of testes, singular, that is called testis, two sperm ducts, and a penis. As you can see in figure 9.1, it is representing male reproductive organ in humans. The testes produce the male gametes, which are called sperms. Those sperms are very small in size. Each has a head, a middle piece, and a tail. This head, as you can see in figure 9.2, it is showing human sperm, which is having all three components. This head of the sperm has a condensed nucleus, and the tail is present so that it can move from one place to another. As each sperm is a single cell with all the usual cell components, it has all the cell organelles that are required by a cell. That is why it is a single cell, unicellular. Then we have female reproductive organs. The female reproductive organs are a pair of ovaries, oviducts, that are also called fallopian tubes, and the uterus. Figure 9.3 on the right side is representing the female reproductive organs in humans. The ovary produces female gametes called ova, which are also called eggs. In human beings, a single matured egg is released into the oviduct by one of the ovaries every month. The uterus is the part where development of the baby takes place. Like the sperm, an egg is also a single cell, and the figure 9.4 is showing human ovum cell, which is having a nucleus for the fusion during fertilization. Then We have the process of reproduction, which have various stages, and the first stage is the fertilization, where the fusion of the egg and the sperm, that are the male and female gametes, will take place, and this fusion is called fertilization. During fertilization, the nuclei of the sperm and the egg fuse to form a single nucleus. Figure 9.5 is showing the fertilization process in which sperms and egg are fused together. And in figure 9.6, you can see that both sperm and eggs nucleus are fused together to form a single nucleus. So this will result in the formation of a fertilized egg or zygote, which will be having a fused nucleus of both these gametes. When we talk about the types of fertilization, there are basically two types of fertilization. First is the internal fertilization, and second one is the external fertilization. In internal fertilization process, fertilization occurs with the fusion of gametes which takes place inside the female body. It occurs in many animals including humans, cows, dogs, and hens. As the fertilization is occurring inside the female body, so there are high chances of survival of the offspring because it is getting all the nourishment from the female body. So in case of external fertilization, it is the process of fertilization in which fusion of gametes takes place outside the body of the female. It is very common in aquatic animals like fish, frog, tadpole, starfish, etc. In these kind of animals, fertilization takes place in water. So there are low chances of survival of the offspring. Then when we talk about fertilization process, you all might have heard of test tube babies. In some women, when oviducts or the fallopian tubes are blocked, these women are unable to bear babies because due to the blockage of fallopian tubes, sperms cannot reach the egg for fertilization. In such cases, doctors collect freshly released egg and sperms and keep them together for a few hours for IVF, which is also called in vitro fertilization. In vitro means something that is happening outside. So in this case, in vitro fertilization means fertilization that is occurring outside the body in a test tube. In case fertilization occurs, then the zygote is allowed to develop for about a week and then it is placed in the mother's uterus. Complete development takes place in the uterus and the baby is then born. So the babies born through this technique are called test tube babies. Then next stage is the development of embryo. In the first stage, we have studied that fertilization occurs and it will be forming a zygote. This zygote will then begin to develop into an embryo. The zygote divides repeatedly to give rise to a ball of cells. The cells then begin to form groups that develop into different tissues and organs of the body. This developing structure is termed as embryo. The embryo gets embedded in the wall of the uterus for further development, and this process is called implantation. The embryo continues to develop in the uterus and then it gradually develops body parts such as hands, legs, head, etc. The stage of the embryo in which all the body parts can be identified is called a fetus. When the development of the fetus is complete, the mother gives birth to the baby. In animals which undergo external fertilization, the embryos continue to grow within their egg coverings, like in case of hen. After the embryos develop fully, the eggs hatch and the baby is born. To understand this process better, we have these two figures. Figure 9.8 is showing the development of embryo, how the embryo is implanted in the uterus wall. Image A is showing zygote formation and development of embryo from the zygote in the uterus, and then image B is showing ball of cells that are multiplying, and then image C is showing an enlarged view of embedding of the embryo in the uterus wall. Then in figure 9.9 you can see a fully matured fetus in which all the body parts can be identified very easily in the uterus. Then on the basis of how the animals give birth to their young ones, they are divided into two categories. First is the viviparous animals and second category is the oviparous animals. Viviparous animals are those animals which give birth to young ones. For example, humans, dogs, elephants, etc. They all give birth to young ones. But when we talk about oviparous animals, these are those animals which lay eggs for the birth of their young ones. And when these eggs hatch, the new young ones are produced. Examples of oviparous animals include birds, reptiles like snakes, frog, etc. Now, the last stage of reproduction is young ones to adult transformation. And this is also called metamorphosis. To understand this concept better, figure 9.10 is showing us the life cycle of frog. You can see in the image given that there are different stages of frog development starting from the egg to the adult stage. We can find that there are three different stages, that is egg, then tadpole or larva stage, and then the adult stage which are capable of jumping and swimming. The tadpole emerging from egg will have gills, tail, etc. in the early and late tadpole stage so that they can swim easily in water. Then it undergoes abrupt changes and develops into mature frog. So this transformation of the larva into an adult frog through drastic changes is called metamorphosis. So the new individuals which are born or hatched from the eggs continue to grow till they become adults, and this transformation is called metamorphosis. And this is the last stage of reproduction in case of sexual reproduction. Now we will start with the asexual reproduction methods. As we are already aware that asexual reproduction includes only one parent, there is no fusion of gametes, so only single parent will be producing a offspring. So to understand this asexual reproduction concept better, we have different types of asexual reproduction, and first type is budding. Budding is observed in hydra, yeast, etc. In the first step, the formation of buds or the bulges takes place and it develops as a small outgrowth on the parent's body. As you can see in figure 9.11, there is small bulge or the bud that is present on the parent body, parent hydra, and it will be eventually growing. As the bud enlarges, it receives characteristics of parent organism, and once it is fully developed, it may be detached from parent body. Since new individuals in case of budding are developing from the buds, so this type of asexual reproduction is called budding. Next is binary fission. It is observed in the single-celled microscopic organism called amoeba. It begins the process of reproduction by the division of its nucleus into two nuclei. As you can see in figure 9.12, it is showing binary fission in amoeba. In A part, we have only one single amoeba, which in B part, its nucleus is dividing into two nuclei, and then in C part, it is followed by division of its body into two equal halves, each part receiving a own nucleus. Finally, two amoeba are produced from one parent amoeba that are called daughter amoeba. So, the type of asexual reproduction in which an animal reproduces by dividing into two individuals is called binary fission. As binary means two, so here one single parent is producing two daughter offsprings. So that is why it is called binary fission. So in the last, we have a story of Dolly, the clone. Cloning is basically the production of an exact copy of a cell, or the carbon copy, you can say. Any other living part or a complete organism, when exact copy of the cells is produced, that process is called cloning. So first cloning was done on an animal by Ian Wilmot and his colleagues at the Roslin Institute in Edinburgh, Scotland. They successfully cloned a sheep named Dolly. Figure 9.3c is showing the image of Dolly sheep. Dolly was born on 5th July 1996 and was the first mammal to be cloned. So during the process of cloning, Dolly, a cell was collected from the mammary gland of a female fin dorsate sheep. That is the image A of the sheep. Then simultaneously an egg was obtained from a Scottish black-faced Eve. Image B is showing Scottish black-faced Eve. Then the nucleus was removed from the egg. Then the nucleus of the mammary gland cell from the fin dorsate sheep was inserted into the egg of the Scottish black-faced Eve, whose nucleus had been removed. The egg thus produced was implanted into the Scottish black-faced Eve, and after the implantation, the development of this egg followed normally, and finally Dolly was born. Though Dolly was given birth by the Scottish black-faced Eve, it was found to be absolutely identical to the fin dorsate sheep, from which the nucleus was taken. Since the nucleus from the egg of the Scottish black-faced Eve was removed, Dolly did not show any character of the Scottish black-faced Eve because of the absence of the nucleus. So Dolly was a healthy clone of the fin dorsate sheep and produced several offspring of her own through normal sexual means. Unfortunately, Dolly died on 14th Feb 2003 due to a certain lung disease. Since Dolly, several attempts have been made to produce cloned mammals. However, many die before birth or die soon after birth. The cloned animals are many a times found to be born with severe abnormalities. So that was the case of giving birth with the help of cloning. So with this, our chapter is complete. I hope you all have understood the chapter well. Thank you for your kind attention.